Sarva Karana Karanam, the source of all the cause of all causes. Everything is caused by Krishna, and that self-same Krishna is descended as Mahaprabhu. So if you call him Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, that doesn't add to his glories. I don't know, did Krishna just call Mahaprabhu Kshirodakshayi Vishnu? I don't think so. Anyway, we'll probably find out what that reference is. So text 111. Se ta bhaktera vakya nahi vyabhichari. Sakala sambhave tani te yate avatari. Should have read the English first. But such words from the lips of a sincere devotee cannot be false. All possibilities abide in him, for he is the primeval Lord. Se ta bhakatera. Vakyas, the speech of a bhakatera, of a devotee. Nahi vyabhichari, is not a deviation. Sakala sambhave, all possibilities. Tanite yate avatari, all possibilities are in him, for he is the source of all incarnations. Avatar, Saragora, Avatar. So that Kaviraj Goswami is saying that a sincere devotee, even though he's saying that he's the self-same Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, it has to be also true. So the Vaishnava, when he speaks, because he's like completely connected with the Supreme, he's completely connected with Krishna, what he says is true, even though it may appear in terms of, rational understanding that it's a false statement. The developed Vaishnava disciple understands that it's the truth. And Srila Prabhupada said, my Guru Maharaj, even if he was wrong, he was right. So it's like that. The Vaishnava is connected with Krishna. It may appear to be, out of line, but because the Vaishnava is in that, different plane of existence, he's always engaged in service. Therefore, even if it appears, externally in a wrong way, it's actually right. So
some of the good brothers of Guru Maharaj, Guru Maharaj said that something with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, it is not backed up by the scripture. Where Guru Maharaj said that yes, but we accept his words because it's even more.
Yeah, his words are more than scripture, right? Yeah, because he's a living being that is transcendental, and the scripture also is alive, of course. But if we see some apparent contradiction in the scripture in connection with the actions of a pure Vaishnava, we have to understand that this apparent contradiction is due to our own limited perception, and that actually the Vaishnava is in a perfect position. So we all know the stories of Nityananda Prabhu and his engagement in service, called into question, but as an avadut, a pure Vaishnava who is descended, who's just exhibiting his transcendental nature as it, transfers into the perception of the living beings in this world. So, it doesn't matter what it appears, because we know it's beyond the range of mundane calculation. And, just like the understanding that if I see something wrong with a high Vaishnava, or if I see something wrong with the structure of actions that he's given for me, that's my problem. It's not the problem of of the pure Vaishnava. It's not as though there's something wrong there. It's even true, it's not something wrong in the structure of the circumstance within which that high Vaishnava has placed us. So, if we always fall back on that, we'll be safe. It's my limited vision. And the Vaishnava knows, and I don't know. If we just always remember that, we're safe. Because in doing that, we remain in the shelter of the Vaishnava. Otherwise, if we think, oh, what's going on here? I need to do this. We need to do that. We need to do that. That's all, connected with mundane ego and the necessity of, placing ourselves in a primary position. But actually, the real behavior of the Vaishnava is always in a humble position, understanding that his circumstance is arranged by not only his guru, but also the Lord directly. And if there appears to be problems with his circumstance, of course, practically we deal with different things. We have to adjust things within the material scope of things. But at the same time, we have to understand that there's really, the circumstance can't be blamed. It has to be us that's blamed. It has to be, this is, the whole arrangement, the whole thing is due to my own miscalculation or misunderstanding or, deviation from the realm of the absolute truth. We think that reality has to do with our own, personal calculation, when in fact reality has to do only with transcendental service to the Lord, and that's seen. The only way it's seen in this world is through the service to the Vaishnava, because that's the connection. The Vaishnava descends into our vision, into our realm of understanding, and he reaches out to us in such a way as to, pull us out of illusion. So the Vaishnava is the, descended form of the Lord. So, whatever he says can't be false. That's the statement of Brahma here that is cited by Kaviraj Goswami. So text 112. All other incarnations are potentially situated in the original body of the primeval Lord. Thus, according to one's opinion, one may address him as any one of the incarnations. Avatarira deha sabha avatarera stiti keho kona mate kahe yemana yara mati. Okay, avatarira, of the source of dehi, the original body, sabha avatari stiti, the existence. So all incarnations are within, they exist, stiti, they're standing within the original transcendental body of the Supreme Lord. Kona mate kahe. Whatever someone says, in whatever way in which someone says something, yamana yara mati. That opinion addresses directly the Lord himself. So Srila Prabhupada clarifies this. He says, it is not contradictory for a devotee to call the Supreme Lord by any one of the various names of his plenary expansions, because the original personality of Godhead includes all such categories. Since the plenary expansions exist within the original person, one may call him by any of these names. In Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya, 695, Lord Chaitanya says, I was lying asleep in the ocean of milk, but I was awakened by the call of Nada, Sri Advaita Prabhu. Here the Lord refers to his form as Kshirodakashai Vishnu. So devotees address the Lord in different ways according to circumstance and also according to their, their heart connection with him. So we have, the story of Murari Gupta, who's attached to Ramachandra, and Mahaprabhu encourages him in that way. Everybody's got ultimately a connection with the Lord in a particular relationship, and that particular in that particular relationship, Krishna has a different name. So the yogis see him as Kshirodakashai Vishnu, and sometimes the Vaishnavas also see him as Kshirodakashai Vishnu, and this is acceptable according to time and circumstance, and also according to the particular relationship of the Vaishnava with Krishna.
Maharaj?
Yes.
Is this a metaphor saying that he's lying on an ocean of milk? Does it have any meaning? Because for example, when Brahma he had 4 heads, means that there was nothing unclear for him. He saw everything. So it expresses as a metaphor heads or heads. The ocean of milk.
Not that I know of. I mean, I remember elsewhere in the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada says that there are unlimited oceans of all varieties of liquid substances. Like even liquor, there's an ocean of liquor. And, I'm sure they represent different things. And obviously, milk is coming from the cow. It's very, wonderful, nourishing substance. And, it's not surprising that it's connected with the Lord himself, who's in our hearts. But exactly if there is a metaphor, I've never heard it. Okay, so here the Lord is being referred to as Kshirodakashai Vishnu, as Lord Chaitanya says, as he was called by Advaita Prabhu. He was asleep, and Advaita Prabhu, Nada, awoke him. So his affectionate name for Advaita Prabhu was Nada. Maybe that means father. I'm not 100% sure. I think so. Okay, text 113. So basically we're reading Chaitanya Charitamrita only today just to get caught up, because I really spaced out yesterday and read nothing but Sri Prapana Jivanamritam. So we'll get caught up. So 113. Some say that Sri Krishna is directly Narayan. Others say that he is directly Vamana. Krishna ke kahiye keha Naranarayana. Keho kahe Krishna hoya sakshat Vamana. Krishna ke, Lord Krishna, kahiye says, keha, someone says, Naranarayan, he's Naranarayan. Keho, someone, kahe says, Krishna, Lord Krishna, hoya sakshat Vamana, is directly, sakshat, directly Vamana, Lord Vaman. So different devotees call the Lord in different ways, according to their particular relationship, and also according to, like in the case of Mahaprabhu, describing himself as sleeping when Advaita Acharya called him. So that the call was received through Kshirodakashai Vishnu, and ultimately, of course, it went to Krishna, because Krishna himself descends. But Mahaprabhu is saying it was the call to Kshirodakashai Vishnu that awoke him and caused him to descend in his original form as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the blue Krishna, covered with the golden heart and halo of Srimati Radharani. So here, sometimes called Narayan, sometimes called Vamana. Okay. 114. Some say that Krishna is the incarnation of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. None of these statements is impossible. Each is as correct as the others. Keho Kahe, someone says, Krishna Kshirodakashayi avatar. Krishna is an avatar of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. Asambhava nahe, nothing is impossible. Satya vachana sabare. In this case, all speeches, vachana, sabara, all of them are satya, true. Satya vachana sabara. Everything is true. So it's like in the transcendental world, everything connected with Krishna, whatever his form, is true. Once there was a dispute that I was having with one of the book distributors in Chicago about telling lies, and I didn't like it. They would, trick people into getting money for books, and I thought, this is bad for our mission. We shouldn't do this. So I wrote to Srila Prabhupada and kind of complained about it, and said he's saying that they can do it because Lord Chaitanya is God and we can do anything for Lord Chaitanya, and I'm saying we have to be practical and not blow the the public's opinion of the mission. And Srila Prabhupada wrote back, of course, whatever one says about Krishna is true, but lying can only be done by devotees who are of the stature of Yudhisthira Maharaj. He said it. So, obviously we don't do that. But then the local leader interpreted it as only this particular devotee and one or two others are of the stature of Yudhisthira Maharaj. And I was like, what? Just, weird stuff going on. So, of course, we were all very young. At that time, my gosh, I had been in the mission for 4 or 5 years, and even the senior devotees had only been in for 6 or 7 years. So we were all just babies and, trying to serve, and Srila Prabhupada tolerating us and helping us. And, really, we can't question the sincerity of the different devotees in youthful age, but we can say that there is different degrees of what's the word? Not exactly truth, but different degrees of positive transcendental effect in different kinds of actions. I think we all carry sincerity in our hearts, and unfortunately that sincerity is kind of shrouded by personal calculations, so sometimes it comes out in the wrong way. And the Vaishnavas around us help us by, pointing that out. And because we want to be increasingly surrendered and increasingly pure, we, engage with those Vaishnavas who see a problem with us and try to also correct it. And then from that, we develop more. The old thesis, antithesis, synthesis is like, according to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and more we can see that it's very much a part of reality. It's a developmental process, and even we're told by our gurus, even in the absolute, this is going on. There's, well, we all know Srimati Radharani's party and Srimati Chandravali's party, and who knows about the cowherd boys are, having different teams and fighting and so many things like that, and I'm sure different disagreements and like the mother is chastising the son, Krishna, in different ways, and then apologizing, and so this the process of development of devotional, the depth of devotion and the concomitant experiences of devotion. We're trying to bring that out from the midst of illusion through understanding this process of reality, whereas the same process is going on in the transcendental world, bringing about a constant, ever-expanding, progressive, increasing experience of love and devotion and ecstasy and everything connected with that, which is given in description by Srila Rupa Goswami. All these different varieties of loving exchange, they're all kind of brought out by exchange, by loving exchange. And the loving exchange manifests through this way of this dialectic, I guess is the best word for it, the Hegelian dialectic. But it's interesting because where Hegel drew that from, I'm not sure, but I found out that in reading some writings of Jalal-ud-Din Rumi, I found in those writings the phrase "die to live." So Hegel probably drew it from Rumi. We don't know, but certainly Rumi said it first. And maybe because Hegel was looking into things like that also.
Who's Rumi?
Rumi is a Sufi saint from eastern Turkey and into Persia, and his followers are the whirling dervishes. They dance and chant, and they chant the poems of Rumi. And I have this book. It's called the Matnawi. It's a big, thick book of amazing statements by Rumi. And what I've read, there's so many things in there that coincide with the Bhagavad Gita and our realizations of what progressive development of love of God is. His conclusion appears to be impersonal, but the means through which he speaks about is loving devotion. So whether he's finally concluded in another birth that there's actually an eternal loving devotion, who knows? But what he says is very much connected with an experience of reality, and his kind of misinterpretation of the absolute is I wonder whether he realized that there was some individuality within that kind of oneness. He often would say, "I am him," and stuff like that, which is really agitating for me. Because he's talking about love and being low and being a servant. And then he says, "It's me." It's just, very, I guess it's the last snare of ego, Srila Prabhupada said. Okay, so some say that Krishna is the incarnation of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. None of these statements is impossible, and each is correct as the others. We hear from Srila Prabhupada, the Lagu Bhagavatamrita states, Atayeva Purnananda Kichinara Saka Matam Mahendranu Jatam Kechit Kshirabdi Shayatam Sahasra Shir Shatam Kechit Vaikunta Natanam. Through you Krishnasya Munayas Tat Tad Vrit Yanugaminaha. According to the intimate relationship between Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord, and his devotees, the Puranas describe him in various names. Sometimes he is called Narayan, sometimes Upendra, Vamana, the younger brother of Indra, king of heaven, and sometimes Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. Sometimes he is called the thousand-headed Sheshanaga, and sometimes the Lord of Vaikuntha. Lagu Bhagavatamrita, I think it's Sanatana Goswami, but I don't remember for sure. Text 115. Some call him Hari, or the Narayan of the transcendental world. Everything is possible in Krishna, for he is the primeval Lord. Keho kahe, in other words, someone says again, Paravyoma Narayana Hari. Paravyoma, in the transcendental world, Narayana, he's Lord Narayan, and Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is known as Hari, who is Lord Narayan. Sakala Sambhave, all possibilities, Krishna, Yate Avatari, is possible in, everything is possible in Krishna in terms of his descent. So again, because he's absolute, all of his expansions, all of his avatars, everything are non-different. Even though we know by analysis from Rupa Goswami that ultimately none of these angsas have the same qualities as Krishna. Krishna has, I forget, something like 56, and Balaram has 54, and it goes down to the living entities who have something like 48 or 46. And the transcendental expansions have different degrees of the qualities of Krishna. But ultimately, all these Vishnu Tattva forms, the spiritual expansions of Krishna, they can directly all be traced back to Krishna. So in this way, it's said that everything is possible in Krishna. You can call him by whatever name, and it will ultimately reach him. But still, we hear from Mahaprabhu that particularly in this age, and I think generally in terms of transcendental development, the Maha Mantra, it's called the Maha Mantra because it is the greatest mantra of Hare Krishna, has the most potency for pure development, whereas Narayan and these other names have potency, but potency up to a particular point. If you chant Narayan, you'll reach Vaikuntha. If you chant the names of the avatars, you'll come into some association with the avatars. But if you chant Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, you'll come into association with the Divine Lord. First with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's given us the mantra, and engaging in his pastimes, in his service, in the service of his servants. And then, if Krishna so wills, we make our appearance in Vrindavan.
There is quite a lot of groups of Vaishnavas who are chanting Maha Mantra, but still we see some division. So is there also a difference between the mantra, Hare Krishna mantra, they chant?
Well, it depends. The difference is the conveyance of the mantra. If you have a pure Paramahansa Vaishnava conveying the mantra, it comes through with full potency, and depending on your own lalyam, desperation, degree of opening of the heart, it will have effect. But if you receive the mantra from someone who is not pure, or who is not connected with the pure Vaishnava, and who is like distorting the meaning of the mantra and the process through which we develop in Krishna consciousness, then the potency is also distorted. milk touched by the lips of a serpent has poisonous effects, we're told. So, you know, if that mantra comes from the lips of an offender and we take it, we get poisoned, unfortunately. And that's just the way it is. However you receive it, the mantra has that type of effect. You know, but also Krishna is Krishna, so it's dependent on the open sincerity of the devotee. If their accumulated merit, you know, enables them to you know, open their hearts in a proper way in spite of that connection, they'll be properly directed towards a real Paramahansa Vaishnava. So really, like Srila Sridhar says, nothing can stop sincerity. But those who receive the mantra in the wrong way, it's, you know, because they've, their sukriti is not, you know, properly developed. There's still a lot of calculation there in it. And for us, you know, we see ourselves just as very fortunate having come in contact with Sri Guru. But we hear from our gurus that it does require some type of sukriti to make proper contact. I'm trying to think. Srila Prabhupada, I believe, told us that it's possible because of the complexity of the laws of karma combined with the you know, progressive internal development that comes about by first contact with Krishna consciousness through agyata sukriti. It is possible that someone will, by some kind of chance, come in contact with Krishna consciousness. But then, you know, even if you consider that it appears to be a chance, still Krishna is, you know, ultimately the controller. So behind any chance, it may be chance in terms of the world and how we see it and everything else, but ultimately Krishna is the controller behind it. So, you know, people are not like cruelly condemned because they make a mistake. Krishna is very kind, so we know that for the sincere-hearted souls, the mistake will be, you know, revealed in due time. That's our, you know, that's our belief, and that's our, you know, I think our practical vision of that. So text 116. I offer my obeisances unto the feet of all those who hear or read this discourse. Kindly hear with attention the conclusion of all these statements. This is Kaviraj Goswami speaking. Sabha Shrota Ganera Kori Charana Vandana. E Sabha Siddhanta Shuna Kori Eka Mona. Okay. Sabha Shrota Ganera, all the hearers, Kori, I do, Charana, lotus feet, Vandana, I pray to their lotus feet. E Sabha Siddhanta. Please hear with the mana, with the mind, the siddhanta, the conclusions of these various statements, of these all. Shuna, please hear. So Kaviraj Goswami bows to the lotus feet of all his readers and entreats them with all humility to hear with rapt attention these conclusive arguments regarding the absolute truth. One should not fail to hear such arguments, because only by such knowledge can one perfectly know Krishna. So, you know, while we hear that, that Krishna consciousness is beyond ordinary knowledge, jnana, the knowledge of Chaitanya Charitamrita and the details given by Kaviraj Goswami have to do with something different than jnana. There's content that's there that has to do with the functions of the material world, which we can hear, and if we have the capacity, you know, learn them and understand them for conveying them to others. But even if we don't have the capacity, that the vijnana, like realized conclusions, will come to us by the grace of Kaviraj Goswami, who's entreating us to hear this carefully, and then further, bringing about a conclusive plea and a conclusive drawing of our hearts by our gurus. We hear them calling us to hear Chaitanya Charitamrita and let it, you know, come into our hearts. That's vijnana. It means like realization, understanding. So we have to hear and understand about Krishna's supremacy, how the world has come about by his arrangement, and how Mahaprabhu has that self-same Krishna has descended as Mahaprabhu. If we hear these things with open heart and feel them, then we'll be able to develop more fully in our Krishna consciousness. One should not fail to hear such arguments, because only by such knowledge can one perfectly know Krishna. One more. A sincere student should not neglect the discussion of such conclusions, considering them controversial, for such discussions strengthen the mind. Thus one's mind becomes attached to Krishna. Okay. Siddhanta bolia chitte na kora alasa. Iha hoite Krishna lage sudrida manasa. Sudrida, determination. Very firm, Prabhupada says. Manasa, mind. So, Siddhanta balia, considering these conclusions, chitte, in the mind, do not be nakara, alasa, lazy. That in this, iha hoite, one's mind, manasa, sudrida, becomes fixed on Krishna, Lord Krishna. So, you know, these should be discussed. And if there's problems, you know, in our understanding, we should bring them out and clarify them in our own prayers and in our discussions with the Vaishnavas. And as we, you know, sincerely discuss these different understandings, we're guided in a way in which the essential substance of the slokas comes out to us. That's why sadhu sangha is so important, because we exchange different ideas about our understanding of these things, and through like correction and discussion and the same thesis, antithesis, synthesis, we develop in our understanding, both in terms of, you know, how we see it with our mind and intelligence, but better still, how we like feel it with our heart and perceive, therefore, with the mind and intelligence. That's like the best way, and gradually we learn how to do that by devotional exchange. And that devotional exchange with like humility and submission is really a reflection of faith in Sri Guru. that Sri Guru will arrange things in such a way through my God brothers and God sisters that I will, gradually grow in Krishna consciousness. Everything is set up perfectly. It's just we're like stumbling through it because we can't see that. So here Kaviraj Goswami says, we should not neglect to discuss this, even if it's, controversial, because this discussion strengthens the mind, and by doing it, one's mind becomes attached to Krishna. Okay. If, because of laziness, one does not come to know Krishna conclusively, one will be misguided about the cult of devotion. About, the flow, the growth, the assemblage of devotees who are growing in devotion that is manifest sometimes in organized societies, sometimes not. And he gives the example, like those who declare themselves advanced devotees and imitate the transcendental symptoms sometimes observed in liberated souls. So sometimes you see people, I've seen it, sometimes you'll see a person in kirtan like rolling on the floor. And the person is attached to the temporary world. So it's, some kind of strange quirk of their mind that they're being driven to, like, imitate a pure Vaishnava. I mean, the chances that we're seeing a pure Vaishnava exhibiting symptoms is very doubtful, because all the pure Vaishnavas we know have restrained from doing that because it's not really understandable by the common man. So if all of those who we know are genuine pure Vaishnavas have restrained themselves from doing this, if we see someone doing this, we can know, 99% this is a false show. So unless one hears about Sri Krishna from bona fide devotees and the spiritual master, one cannot make advancement in devotion to Sri Krishna. So it always has to come through the Paramahansa Vaishnava, because it has to do, again, with, not mundane acquisition of information. We say it again and again, but it's very important that even though we may get information from reading, so many books by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Baladev Vidyabhushan and all these great saints who have written, and Rupa Goswami and others, we may get information and we may get some view of high pastimes. There's not going to be anything there beyond the acquisition of information. And we're still, if we go to really high books, our natural tendency will be to transpose our mundane experiences of those types of pastimes into material ideas, and that's Sahajism, and that will cause a collapse of our genuine devotion and a manifestation of an increasing manifestation of Sahajism. Like we got that statement from Srila Govinda Maharaj that we should very carefully follow the teachings of the ultimate director of our beloved gurus, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami and Bhakti Sridhar Dev Goswami, who Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. We should carefully follow his instructions. Otherwise, we will gradually slide into Sahajism, even if it's 50 or 100 years. It's exactly what Srila Govinda Maharaj said. So the slide to Sahajism may at first appear like, oh, they're just following the Vidhi Marga, and they're, coincidentally or concomitantly alongside with that, reading these high pastimes and tasting some nectar so that they can continue with their progress. But in fact, they're getting themselves onto a slippery slope that will bring them down further and further. This is the verdict of Saraswati Thakur. And those who want to say, oh, this personality has got some realization that is, progressively more developed than Saraswati Thakur, because, believing in some kind of devotional evolution, they're rejected. Saraswati Thakur gave the substance, and we find the substance in him and his pure devotees. And anything contradictory to him, we know it's off, because that's the clear indication of all of our gurus. Srila Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada, their lives were nothing but service to Saraswati Thakur. Some idea developing, Srila Sridhar Maharaj told us, some idea developing of direct service to Mahaprabhu or service to Krishna in some particular relationship, because they're pure Vaishnavas. But most important and most significant in that development was their emptying themselves for their guru to enter and for them to fully engage in the guru's service. And so whatever Saraswati Thakur says, we can look at, pray to our gurus, and try to understand it in a pure way and receive it to center ourselves in proper devotion. So Prabhupada goes on to say, imitation devotees who wish to advertise themselves as elevated Vaishnavas and who therefore imitate the previous acharyas do not follow them in principle, and they're condemned by the words of Srimad Bhagavatam as stone-hearted. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has commented on their stone-hearted condition as follows. I won't read the Sanskrit, I'll just read the English. Those who shed tears by practice, but whose hearts have not changed, are to be known as stone-hearted devotees of the lowest grade. Their imitation crying, induced by artificial practice, is always condemned. So the crying may appear genuine. The bodily function of crying has been stimulated. But the stimulation here, Chakravarti Thakur tells us it's induced by artificial practice. So it's like, I used to go to these rock festivals, and sometimes we would have seminars on, psychedelics and spirituality. And I would tell them, what you're getting is an artificially induced experience of realization that just comes and goes. But there's no actual substance to it. You get the physical and mental and maybe, ego level experience. But it's not possible to penetrate to the soul. Whereas pure revelation comes into the soul and is manifest through the subtle material body and the external material body. So you don't get the real thing. So these people may have the capacity to induce similar systems by artificial practices. They can't really know what the reality is, and in fact, by doing this, their hearts become more and more hard. The desired change of heart referred to above is visible in reluctance to do anything not congenial to devotional service. To create such a change of heart, conclusive discussion about Sri Krishna and his potencies is absolutely necessary. False devotees may think that simply shedding tears will lead one to the transcendental plane, even if one has not had a factual change in heart. But such practice is useless if there is no transcendental realization. So false devotees lacking the conclusion of transcendental knowledge think that artificially shedding tears will deliver them. They think that it's part of the sadhana, the vidhi. You know, you make imitation, and then gradually it's transformed into reality. This is sahajism. And ultimately they dress up like gopis and, you know, do physical, mundane activities, you know, thinking that this is the pastimes of Krishna, and they're going to enter into them through these activities. They'll somehow or other transform into reality by, you know, artificially bringing them down. They think they're really bringing them down by doing that. But you can't induce, you know, a descent of the pastimes of Krishna. You know, you have to surrender and then wait for Krishna's will. So Jiva Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami, following the previous acharyas, has inculcated the conclusions of the scriptures in the sixth thesis called Sat Sandarbha. False devotees who have very little knowledge of such conclusions fail to achieve pure devotion for want of zeal in accepting the favorite directions for devotional service given by self-realized devotees. So there's the crux right there. Want of zeal, that lolayam, that earnest desire. You know, that we have to try to cultivate and develop by meditation and prayer on our Guru. More and more we'll realize the desperate condition we're in, and develop that zeal, that desperation, that feeling of necessity to develop in Krishna consciousness and follow in the footsteps of our divine masters. Okay, such false devotees are like impersonalists who also consider devotional service no better than ordinary fruitive activities. So the impersonalists think that bhakti is something that's designed to, make a gradual development of spiritual realization, and from that development one progresses to really understanding reality, which is, the impersonal Brahman. And so devotional service is subordinate to the knowledge of the impersonal Brahman, and it's just a means for less intelligent people to engage their sentiment in spirituality. This is kind of the view that was predominant pretty much in India, which has completely been shattered by the effect of Srila Prabhupada, and of course the subsequent reinforcing of the substance of what Prabhupada gave by Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So by reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, we are able to feel and understand the grace of our gurus as given to us through the grace of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and his, setting down his pure realization and understanding of the means through which we can develop and free ourselves and become, surrendered servants. So, okay, so tomorrow 118 is the sloka. Then finally conclude by these studies, you know Lord Chaitanya. That's what Kaviraj says. That's the next sloka. So, Jai, all glories to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Rakhak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Sarasara Mat Acharya Brinda Ki Jai. Nisai Gaur Premanand